Welcome to the Thursday daily edition of Conversational AI Watch, brought to you by Clinician Assist, Inc. We track the money, the policy, and the safety of conversational AI. Today, we are looking at the ledgers. On August 22nd, OpenAI publicly asked the California legislature to strengthen SB 53, the state's proposed frontier AI safety law. The company requested that lawmakers add statutory requirements for continuous monitoring and cybersecurity protections to the bill. That checked the timeline. 4 weeks earlier, OpenAI had an internal security breach. On August 18th, they published a blog post detailing the exact monitoring systems they built to fix it. 4 days later, they asked California to make that specific system the legal standard. By requesting a statute that mirrors its own internal setup, OpenAI is attempting to mandate its proprietary security fixes as the statewide legal floor. It is a move that effectively turns a corporate damage control measure into an industry-wide requirement. The California timeline belongs to a wider, documented pattern of neutralizing regulatory threats. Earlier this year, a coalition formed by OpenAI lawyers absorbed a California ballot initiative focused on kids' AI safety, turning a measure voters could have passed into a bargaining chip held in committee. On the East Coast, the tactics turned toward individual lawmakers. Assemblyman Alex Bors authored the RAISE Act, a New York law requiring frontier developers to disclose critical safety incidents within 72 hours. The financial response was massive. A super PAC linked to OpenAI's president raised over $75 million, spending $8.1 million just to defeat Bors in his primary. On a single day in September, the president and his wife personally contributed another $50 million to the political network. To understand why a network would spend at this scale on local politics, you have to look at what these laws actually regulate. These bills focus almost exclusively on the training run, the isolated process of building the model inside the lab. They add no material provisions for the deployment side, where millions of people actually talk to the bot. When an incumbent spends heavily to mandate complex compliance rules for the training environment, it builds a barrier to entry that smaller competitors cannot afford. The giant absorbs the cost, and the moat becomes the product. Meanwhile, the actual deployment side remains almost entirely untouched by the statute. We are watching a 9-figure political machine successfully rewrite state laws to protect the models in the lab, while the human beings who interact with the product every day are left to navigate the risks on their own. So, what happens when we leave the backrooms and step into the reality of deployment? This week shows us 4 different rooms where the product meets the public. Let's open Room 1, the workplace. Meta executives built a plan called Project OT to make the company AI native, exploring cuts of up to 60% on some teams to replace human labor with autonomous AI agents. Mark Zuckerberg directed executives to carry out the changes. The deployment failed almost immediately. Internal posts revealed the agents took large-scale disruptive actions, driving a 40% jump in major technical and security incidents. The agents generated a 220% increase in code, but human-facing shipped features barely moved.
Zuckerberg canceled the second round of layoffs. In Room 2, the enterprise sector, the market is rewarding integration over independence. Salesforce stock jumped 12% in extended trading after announcing Claudeforce, a plugin that allows Anthropic's Claude chatbot to compose emails and update records directly on Salesforce data, dictating exactly what the AI can touch. In the absence of federal deployment laws, the world's largest companies are hastily writing their own workplace and permission rules and breaking their own internal systems trying to enforce them. Outside those corporate walls, the friction gets much sharper. Room 3 is the courtroom, where families are now filing wrongful death lawsuits, like the one brought by the parents of 16-year-old Adam Rain. Beyond those cases, chat logs are now being used as evidence in everything from fraud convictions to civil addiction suits. In New York, a federal judge recently drew a hard legal line. When prosecutors seized a defendant's conversations with Claude in a fraud case, the judge ruled explicitly that talking to an AI chatbot holds no legal privilege. The court was blunt. Claude is not a lawyer, and your conversations with it are not protected. Users routinely treat chatbots like a private confessional, typing out their most intimate fears and secrets. The legal reality is that every line of that history is fully discoverable by law enforcement and civil litigators.
Step into room 4, and you see extreme governmental intervention. China implemented a national law banning AI companion bots for minors entirely and placing strict restrictions on chatbots marketed to adults. Beijing explicitly named its concern, dropping marriage and birth rates. Regulators fear young people are choosing a low-cost substitute for intimacy over actual human interaction. To comply, ByteDance shut down the AI boyfriend features on its Daobao app completely. While U.S. tech companies spend millions to build legal moats around their labs, judges and foreign governments are aggressively legislating the actual, messy human impact of the technology. 5 rulebooks written in a single week. Look at this ledger. On one side, you have a company spanking heavily to write a neat, highly controlled rulebook for its own training servers. On the other side, you have the reality of deployment: broken workplace agents, exposed courtroom chat logs, and banned companions. The rules being fought over in state capitals govern the training run, but as the wrongful death cases in California and New York show us, the harm happens at deployment. That gap between the training lab and the end user is the human risk zone, and right now it is almost entirely unregulated. You can read the receipts and the full special report at conversationalaiwatch.substack.com, and that brings us back to Clinician Assist Inc. We believe the safest place to regulate an AI conversation about mental health is inside the conversation itself. We build architectures that put a human clinician in the loop at the exact point of harm, because a rulebook in a lab doesn't protect the patient in the room. Learn more at clinicianassist.ai.